Welcome to the Back to Me podcast, where we help multicultural incoming freshman women and men manage their entire college experience throughout post-graduation to successfully transition into entrepreneurship and corporate workspaces as new hires. Back to me. Oh, I turned it around. I'm back to me. I finally figured it out. I'm back to me. So when you think you have nothing, back to me, I go back to me, yeah, I'm back to me. Hello everyone, it's your host, Yoli Tamu. It's October and health awareness is on the agenda in more ways than one. We recognize emotional wellness as a cornerstone for this month and hope you gain valuable strategies to protect your mental and your physical health. In this week's episode, we are joined by Kellie Todd Griffin, founding executive for the California Black Women's Collective Empowerment Institute. After initially gathering 50 Black women from all walks of life to share their common concerns virtually, her organization now consists of over 2,000 women in the collective. Find out why it is more important than ever to believe in your brilliance and embrace the joy within that we all share, both young and old. Enjoy. You know, we have been doing so much to serve college women and even college men, but I just really find it an honor that I had the opportunity to speak with our guest today. She is Miss Kellie Todd Griffin, the president and CEO of the California Black Women's Collective Empowerment Institute. How's it going?
It's good. It's good. How are you, boo? How are you?
I'm great. I'm so grateful to talk to you. And man, we just hit it off. Our first conversation, we just got into it.
Girl, listen, anytime I have a conversation with a Black woman, I'm ready to go. We're like, let's get it going.
I love this. I love this. So, you know, on this podcast, we serve that incoming college freshman that's transitioning into that new environment and all the anxiety that goes with that. And, you know, as well as heading out into the workforce, you know, what that experience is like and developing communication skills and, you know, all the facets of transitioning we try to address on this podcast. And so I just wanted to talk to you first about, you know, being a president and as the president of California Black Women's Collective, who inspired you? Like what empowered you to pursue this field and particularly pursue African-American women?
Oh, well, that's like kind of like who doesn't inspire me? Any Black woman that I see. But, you know, I would say, you know, I've had a couple of Black women, you know, bosses in my career, but two that stand out the most. One, I worked as the communication director for now Mayor Karen Bass, but at the time she was an assembly member. And, you know, she taught me, and just learning from her was just how to be fearless in everything that you do, fearless in what like you want to do. And then I had another sister, Dr. Elaine Batchelor, who actually is the president and CEO of Martin Luther King Community Health Center. Well, it's the hospital, but they have their own kind of health program. And she taught me how to believe in my brilliance. And so it's really interesting. You know, these aren't sisters that I met early in my career. These were bosses I had when I was at a director level. And it was important to see Black women be fearless and be brilliant and be unapologetic about it. And so when I got the opportunity to, you know, really kind of lean into what I thought my calling was, you know, I decided, you know, I'm going to be fearless and I'm going to believe in this brilliance and go for it.
Wow. That's fantastic. That it took someone, would you say that it took that person, not necessarily a family member or another woman in your life? It took that person to pull that out of you.
It did. I mean, you know, we are a family of mostly females, and it wasn't that my family didn't do that. It's just, you know, we grew up in the church and, you know, Baptist, and women aren't supposed to lead. They're supposed to follow and, you know, everything in between. And so for me, it just wasn't something that, you know, we saw, though I see my grandmother as being a strong Black woman, but under the umbrella of, you know, where my grandfather was as a pastor of, you know, a church. And she was the first lady, but never to supersede the pastor. So it did take women outside of my family for me to see that you can lead, and you can lead in a way that you should lead in, that is based on your skill sets and what you bring to the table. And in this case, I was able to I can take a lot of information and process it and create, something magical from that. So,
hmm It's so powerful that you said that we were brought up to be these followers, like these silent partners, if you will, and we're so significant, you know.
right.
So I'm just so glad that this institute exists. And when you were telling me about how it was founded, that you all started a Zoom during COVID, can you
Mhm.
tell us about this, like how you put that together and who came. I thought that was a great story.
Yeah, so we actually tried to start bringing Black women together, in 2018. I started with the State of Black Women in California report. But when COVID hit, and, we dabbled and did some convenings here and there. But when COVID hit, we all, there was COVID, and then there was George Floyd, and then there was just, Sandra Bland. There was just so much happening, and everybody wanted, Breonna Taylor. We all wanted to have a safe space to, talk about it and share kind of what we were feeling. But one of the things that also happened was we had this phenomenal opportunity to actually, try and get a Black woman to be appointed by the governor for Kamala Harris's Senate seat. And so we all started meeting and coming together, and because we were all fired up just because of everything that was going on in the community, there was a need. So I started pulling people together. We started, I think, with 14 people. Then we just kept growing, and we connected with some of the national ladies, and we were just putting that, this is our voices, needed to be heard around this process. Don't discount us. Even though he selected someone else, we still felt really good that we didn't just sit back and wait. And then we recognized that, oh my God, we got every week, every Monday, we were on this call, and we had, nearly 100 Black women throughout California that showed up on the call. And many of them, I'd say 85% were, the same women. And every week they would bring another Black woman to the call. And so we thought, well, I don't want this to end. Let's keep this moving. So after that, we kept having the calls, and they kept coming on. And then we decided we wanted to do some programming, and we had a conference plan, but we were still in COVID. So we ended up making that virtual. When we decided to release, the State of Black Women in California for 2022, we had 600 plus people on the call.
Wow.
That wanted to hear about, what it was we were talking about. And out of that, one of the proposals was we recognized there wasn't enough research being done on Black women and girls in California and their quality of life and what they experience here in California. And so we asked for, a legislative ask, a budget ask of $5 million to create the Black Women's Think Tank here in California, which is the first think tank in the policy think tank exclusively focused on Black women and girls in the nation. And, we were able to, some of the ladies that were in the collective from day one ended up getting elected to the state legislature. And so it just, we had Senator Camlager Dove and Assembly Member Mike Gibson introduced it. But then we had 3 Assembly members really take it to the next level to get the funding: Lori Wilson, Tina McKinnon, and Mia Bonta. And, these are sisters that didn't even really know each other. They were just coming in the legislature together, and they rallied. We call them the 3 Musketeers, rallied and said, we want this to be this last bite of the apple as a budget priority. And then, went to the, Assembly Member Wilson went to the speaker and the budget chair and said, this is our number one priority. We want to make sure that this gets funded this year. And that's kind of how we started, and partnered with Cal State Dominguez Hills. And Dr. Parham welcomed us with open arms to anchor the think tank at his university that is really a model for an urban university in the country. So
Wow.
that's kind of how we started.
And you had told me that these women consisted of all ages and
Yes.
all
Yep. Yep.
backgrounds. You said school board
Everything.
members, politicians, everybody was there.
Everything. Matter of fact, it's funny because, people, we know that we are the most active in the political world, but we had sisters that, were not just the big names. Like we would have, supervisor at then she was Senator Holly Mitchell on the call. We did have Diane Watson, and we had, Karen Basses and all of the big names. We had a call that had every big name Black woman elected on the call. We had, from London Breed to Karen Bass to Maxine to Barbara Lee to all of us was on this call. And it was magnificent because there had never been a call that had all of these, big name. They've seen them on TV, they see them everywhere, and they were on this call and sharing information. But it meant so much to the sisters that were school board members, sisters that were water district board members, and just the community at large. It just meant a lot. But we also had sisters that were from corporate and nonprofit leaders, people who worked in public service, women who were retired and was just looking for something to do, right? Because they had been in like public sector for years, but they're only 60 something. And they wanted something to do and get behind it. And we had women who were over organizations for domestic violence, for healthcare, you name it. Then we had moms that were single moms. The diversity of the collective is what really makes me the most proud, because it means, one, there's a need for Black women to come together and be in a safe space. And then there's the desire is that they want to come together and they want to solution together and co-create together for a better way for Black Californians.
Amazing. And then just to be vulnerable is what I was thinking when you told me about this, just to be in that space of women on so many levels, but probably sharing the same feelings about being Black people.
Same stories, no matter who you were. No matter if you were, somebody that was a corporate, at the time I was a senior director at a health plan and part of the, executive team that was over profit and loss, over growth. And so every, day I'm showing up with this, in this predominantly white world as the only Black person on the executive team, having conversations with the CEO, trying to figure out what to do and making sure Black people don't get lost in the process. And then at the evening, I would be working until 1 and 2 o'clock in the morning for Black women, making sure that we had what we needed as it related to the collective. And so when I got on that call to see, like, how when you start a Zoom and then you started and you start seeing the numbers get larger and larger and larger, you're like, oh, thank God, but they're showing up. But that gave me like a feeling of, like, okay, this is the purpose. This is the calling. Because if they weren't here, then it wasn't what I was supposed to do. But the need was so great that, they showed up every week. And it would be so funny because, men would say, what about us? And I'd be like, you need me to help you start a call for Black men? Because I'd be happy to show you what we did. But this is really a safe space. And, we ended up creating a private Facebook page. And literally we started, with maybe 50 or 60. We're at 2,000. And everyone shares information there, whether it's for a job, it's for an issue that's going on, call to actions. Just we're having a jazz concert. I mean, it doesn't matter what it is. It's still considered a safe space for them.
And then you told me about an event that promoted Black Girl Joy. What was that about? That was fantastic.
Oh my God, that was just so magnificent and it's so interesting. So we created Black Girl Joy Festival at Cal State Dominguez over the summer. And it was right before school started. And the reason we did that was because we recognized that Black girls experience so much discrimination in the public school and private school sector, no matter where they are, that we wanted to create an event for them that they could actually come to the campus and we shower them with joy. And when we decided, we talked about what does joy look like, we all went back to our childhood. because as adults, we don't experience joy as much as we did when we were children. And so we decided that we weren't going to just bring them into the environment where they have to, go into a classroom and we talk about leadership. That was important, but we wanted to actually bring them outside and do this joy filled experience, which was hula hoop and double dutch and yoga and sound bath and just self-defense, because we also recognize that Black girls are victims of sex trafficking and domestic abuse, and we wanted to make sure that we also gave them some tools in case they were in some kind of situation that they would need to protect themselves. And there was Black women that taught all of these classes, and those Black women shared with them the responsibilities of all of those things that we were talking to them about. And we even talked to them about, entrepreneurship and side hustle. And if you're braiding hair, that's a business. So we were feeding into them like all these affirmations about what they can do with the world and how they had so much to offer. And again, based on that, be fearless and believe in your brilliance was anchored around there. And so it was just so magnificent. But the thing that really I took away is we required that the parents and guardians and chaperones stay with the girls. So a lot of the mothers stayed. And let me just say, when you look at our pictures, the mothers were having more fun than the girls because we went back to that. And poor thing, we've done a disservice to our girl. They didn't know how to double dutch. So the mothers had to jump in and show them how to double dutch and hula hoop. And it was so funny. Some of those mothers got so competitive with the girls because we were like, let's see who can do it the longest. And the mothers was in there, rolling around. Let's see how long the seconds for double dutch. Them mothers was jumping in that rope. And it was we had so much fun. And it just, but it is that, how do we pour joy into our girls and the importance of that?
It's so good to hear this because you're right. As mothers, when do they get opportunity to just be free?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
So they got to reconnect.
But they were kids, right? They were kids once too.
Right.
And it was just, and of course, we had a DJ that played the whole entire day. And so the music just, was the affirmation of all of it. And, when the mothers got involved, the DJ even made sure she switched to include music that even the mothers understood. And so we had a couple of line dances. So we were out there line dancing with the girls and stuff. I mean, we just had so much fun. The day went by very fast.
That is fantastic. That is self-care at its finest.
Yes.
That sounded like.
Yes.
Now.
Yes. And it's a mental health initiative. At the end of the day, when you pull it all back, it's a mental health initiative, and we recognize the importance of having that for our girls.
Yeah. I mean, it's a necessity. I mean, just like washing your body,
Right.
Gotta take care of your mind. So
you really do. You really do. Especially, because we know what you're experiencing, whether you are a girl that is, in school, in high school and junior high school and elementary, but even if you're in college, you could go to a school in high school, your primary education, and there's a lot of people that look like you. But as soon as you step foot on a college campus, you become like super minority. You become like, where are my people? And where are my people in the classroom? Where are my people in administration? Where are my people? I mean, you just don't see it. What I love about Cal State Dominguez is, they have an African-American president. Their chief financial officer is a Black woman. Their chief diversity officer is a Black woman. They have programs for young girls, Sisters United there. It's the home of Dimely Institute. So they don't just have our think tank. They have the Dimely Institute think tank as well. And they try and do as much programming as possible just to feed into the girls when they come on campus, because they understand retention is an issue and success on campus is going to be determined by how people experience the education system there.
That's right. That's right. And so, as you speak about the college campuses, I was thinking about some takeaways from those events. We have these college listeners, as I told you, and I'm just thinking about takeaways that you walked away from that maybe our listeners can benefit from that experience. And even just being in the Zoom, what are great takeaways for our listeners?
I really would say we've got to recognize as students of the world that we can learn at any age. I started my career, in corporate and was blessed to move myself up. I never thought that I would be a leader of a nonprofit. It was just didn't dawn on me that that would be a pathway for me. But as the journey has continued, I have continued to learn, right? And open to the lessons, whether it's been from, other Black women. My biggest champions in corporate have been white males, and those were my sponsors. They weren't my mentors. They weren't, coaches. I had other folks that were those, but they were my sponsors. I have one particular gentleman who has been a CEO for me 3 times. And he just kept reaching back to me. The first time, he didn't even know me, really. I was highly recommended by someone else, and he respected that person. Well, it was a couple of people. He respected them. So he was like, well, let me get you over here with this startup of a new health plan here in California. And I was like, okay. And so he became my real sponsor. And when I was out of the room, he spoke on my behalf, right? He would say, we want Kellie on this project. And we want Kellie on this project because she's going to do what we need done on the project. So I had to be open to that. I had to be open to someone being my mentor and my sponsor and speaking on my behalf.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I think because, as you know us, it's like, I speak on my own behalf, right? That's just how we were taught. But I learned through my whole career how important that is to have these partnerships. In creating the think tank and creating the collective, it was because of that I was able to be open to the actual partnerships, right? I was able to do that. I was able to say, well, I'm a partner with sisters up in Northern California, even though I don't really know them. And then I'm going to have to also let them speak on behalf of the collective, even though it may be not maybe what I would say, but I needed to give away some of that power so that the influence could be deeper, so that other people can speak on my behalf. And I always say that one of the things I learned the most is the third party endorsement is more important than anything else when you are trying to lift up your personal brand. And so all those sisters who came on the call, the way that they experienced Maya Angelou say, it's not what you say, or she would say, it's not what you say, it's not what you do, it's how you make people feel.
That's right.
All of the people that came on the calls, or the sisters, young sisters that came to the Black Girl Joy Festival, or the sisters enrolled in our Leadership Institute, or, the sisters that we have engaged in our research, we intentionally think about how we want to make people feel.
Mm-hmm.
We always want to make sure that what they get out of the work that we do shows that we care and it's intentional, that the work that we're doing for them is intentional.
And I think it's important to hear when you say that your sponsors were not even of your racial background. They understood the purpose, they understood the goal and wanted to support it. I mean, it's as simple as that. People understanding.
Right. That's it. They could care less about, whether or not I was from their neighborhood, or whether or not I was, I had the same education that they had. It didn't matter. It was, can I do the job? And when I did the job, what did I make people feel? How did I make people feel when I worked with them? I made them feel like I was part of the team, that I was doing the work for the greater good. I wasn't self-absorbed. I wasn't thinking just about myself. I was thinking about how do we get this done. All that spoke to, some of the people that I've worked with over the years, but that's also why they, continue to trust the work that I'm doing and they lean in when they can. And I also recognize that everybody can't lean in at the same time. Like based on circumstances, and situations, the journey is long. And there's very few people that are going to be with you the whole part of the journey, but they may be parts of the journey that they're with you. And it's okay if they're not with you in other parts of the journey. There's some sisters that helped with the collective when we first started, was on every single call and was part of, kind of this kind of executive committee that no longer are part of the collective for the reasons they either changed jobs or they, wanted to go a different way and do something with a different organization. And I learned that that was the season. And I'm so grateful for that season.
Mm-hmm. So I think it's encouraging for that new college student that's listening, particularly if it's a young Black woman, to definitely seek out student organizations on campus, but to be open to their professors that may be of different races, because
Absolutely.
these people could be great mentors and eventual sponsors.
Right, and sponsors, because especially on campus, we're looking at doing a research project because we see the retention rates with particularly Black students, whether they're male or female. But the goal is to actually look at all students that are graduating and doing interviews with all these groups of students to find out what helped them get through college, and then build out, an algorithm to pull out like certain statements that are consistent, like amongst the different groups, and then look at that gap. Right? Because some students will say, I got through college because, a professor, leaned in and was helpful to me. We do assume that those professors are most likely going to be professors that are of our race, but that's not always the case. I've had professors, I even had teachers that have leaned into me because they saw something different, or they saw that, I love to read or I love to write. So they would give me things. They would say, oh, you should read this, you should read that. And that was helpful, or you should look at this journal. I was a journalism major. So they'll say, oh, there's this lady that did this article on this and this article on that. You have to be open to understanding different people, different places, and knowing that even amongst Black people, we're not monolithic. And so I don't always assume that just because I see a Black woman that we had the same story and the same journey.
And both things can happen at the same time. Being a proud Black woman can happen at the same time while you're embracing others to help you, that want to help you.
Right. Listen, I'm Black. I tell people that all the time. I'm so pro-Black. I have a group of friends of they're not young anymore, but we've been in the journey of healthcare together for like a decade. And they're all from the API community. And two of them have fought for me to get a job and a promotion when we're together. They have fought, like, we won't work with anybody else unless she gets that job.
Wow.
Like that kind of battle, and the mentor is an Irish lady who just, she's like, what do I need to do? And I mean, when I say they have kicked some doors down for me, and they all know how black I am.
Yes.
And they don't care.
Yes.
Because it's again, I'm there to represent my community. I'm also there to make sure there's a voice for my community, but I don't then discount any other community or any other voices.
I love that. I love that. Woo. This has been so good. My goodness.
Yeah.
We always wrap up with like final words of encouragement, but wow, I think you did it. You simply said, be open.
Be open. Be
Period.
Open. Yeah. And follow again, don't forget to be fearless and believe in your brilliance. But when I realized that, oh yes, I should believe in my brilliance, I actually had, a resume behind me that I could point to and say, yeah, that was brilliant. Oh my God, that program's still going. And that was a Fortune 50 company. I can do that. But I would recommend, especially with college students, you didn't get there unless you was brilliant. And it doesn't mean you have to be brilliant in STEM. It doesn't mean you have to be brilliant in English or brilliant in, something else. You just sociology. But the fact that you were able to get to college means you have to be brilliant. And you have to remember that I'm smart too. I may not show it in this test or I may not show it in this paper, but I am brilliant. And you have to be fearless to be able to believe in that brilliance.
Love this. So good. So good. Woo! So now if they want to learn about the collective, where can you send them? Is there a website or IG? Where would you like to send them?
So you can go to cablackwomen'scollective.org and you can sign up we actually have a newsletter that we send out often. We probably over communicate, but sorry about that. But there's so much information to share. And then you can also find us obviously on like LinkedIn and Twitter, and we have a public Facebook page as well. So we're on all of those. That's California Black Women's Collective.
This is fantastic, man. I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm so grateful to be able to be here with you today.
Yes, this is a great conversation. All right. Well, you take care of yourself and I'll be speaking with you soon. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Take care. Bye.
Thank you for joining us. Take some time out to discover what joy looks like for you and remain open to partnerships that can change your life. For more information about other episodes, remember to subscribe to the Back to Me podcast, College and Beyond. I'm your host, Yoli Tamu. Leave a review at the end of this podcast, and if you would like to learn more about other special events, join the Back to Me podcast Facebook group, or simply text Back to Me to 833-206-4565. Until next time, be well.
Back to me.